Well, Eskom continues to implement load shedding, causing frustration to citizens and business. The embattled power utility says rotational load shedding is used as a means of averting a national blackout. But what is it that South Africa needs to do to solve the electricity crisis? To help us answer this question is energy expert Hilton Trollip, a research fellow at Global Risk Governance at the University of Cape Town. Thanks a lot for joining us this morning, Hilton. But of course, when it comes to this issue around Eskom, it's an age-old tale. One would say that we've been warned time and time again. In fact, it was former President Thabo Mbeki that actually said Eskom was right a few years ago. So the question then is, how do we salvage the matter?
So the thing is that it's very dramatic when load shedding happens because of the devastating and inconvenient effect it has, the devastating effect on business and the economy, the inconvenience for people. But there's no dramatic solution because this is a structural problem that has been in the making for 10 years. So we know what the causes, the symptoms are. The symptoms are a whole lot of plant breaks down, and the symptoms are, as the CEO says, Mr. Oberholzer, that the coal fleet is unreliable and unpredictable. The cause of this is not the coal fleet. The cause of this is people, and it's people at a number of levels. Firstly, at the top governance level, Eskom has simply proved itself to be ungovernable from outside by government. And this is a well-understood problem in organizations this size because all of the kinds of expert technical managers that you have to run an organization like this, they've got huge amounts of technical information that politicians simply don't understand. But what's happened at Eskom for the past longer than 10 years is that politicians have gone in and they've interfered. They've interfered in many ways. But the most destructive way that the politicians have interfered, and this is well documented by now, was they put a whole lot of incompetent, politically connected people into Eskom to deliberately enrich themselves. And that was called state capture. The trouble with where we sit now is there was the Eskom inquiry. It reported on the 28th of November last year, a year ago. It's 188 pages long, which is not dramatic either, because reading 188 pages is a boring thing to do. But I've done that the day before yesterday, and yesterday again I went through it, and I had a look at what has been done by government in terms of that inquiry that took about a year to put together, and which was adopted by Parliament and called a brilliant inquiry at the time. And there are 10 specific things that the inquiry recommended, and on each one they required government or state agencies, such as the prosecuting authority or the special investigative unit, to report back to Parliament within either 30 days or 90 days. The thing is that what happens with this government is it lurches from one dramatic failure to the next, has a big inquiry, but then just ignores the inquiry. Because if you look at that report, none of those report backs to Parliament have been done. So we're not respecting our overall governance mechanisms at the top. We can't hold our executive to account, and then the executive can't hold Eskom to account. Then the second problem is Eskom has had 11 chief executive officers in 10 years. No company can run like that. So this is a structural issue. So let's move to solutions immediately. Firstly, I agree with the Chief Operating Officer that the coal fleet is unreliable and unpredictable. I also believe that the best that can be done with that fleet is that it can be stabilized and then we can have managed decommissioning over the next 10 years. This is also in line with other long-term plans by, for example, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. The University of Cape Town has shown that the cheapest energy system for South Africa, we can't escape the fact that coal's days are past. Those power stations, most of them that aren't working, they're more than 30 years old. The new ones, Medupi and Kusile, are the victims of huge corruption, starting with the ANC Chancellor House Medupi boiler contracts in 2006. There was the Securities and Exchange Commission in the USA Hitachi Africa paid a 19 million US fine settlement because of corruption linked to Mangope. Nothing ever happened in South Africa. So the people that were involved with allocating those Mangope contracts for the boilers simply have never been brought to book. This was open gates for this kind of appoint your friends to do work at hugely inflated prices. The price of electricity has gone up 400% in 10 years. Make a lot of money, nothing happens. So there's this culture of impunity and unaccountability. That's the cause. There's no dramatic way to sort that out, but there is a steady way. 49 individuals were named in the Eskom inquiry to be investigated. Subsequently, there's only been one NPA finding, and that is around the Trillion investigation of, sorry, my earpiece is coming loose here, but they have got incontrovertible evidence of bribery, fraud, corruption and money laundering. But we're sitting here more than a year after the Eskom inquiry. Not one of those 49 individuals, nor any other person, has appeared before a court of law to explain their role in that 188-page report's litany of wrongdoing. So that's the cause, and that's what has to be fixed.
Yeah.
You need people with integrity, people that know that they will be rewarded for good work, but also people that know they will be called to account for bad work, incompetence or crime before we can fix this thing. It's the people.
Yeah, well, Hilton, I mean, we speak about the fact that it is the people. The people are the ones that are suffering at this moment in time. So all these solutions that you're talking about, integrity at governance, integrity from a business and managerial perspective, it's almost as though it's an external factor, right? So my question then is, what do people, the ones who are actually facing the crisis, what do they do? How do they take back the power? Because to wait for accountability to exist within government, one may say that we'll wait for the rest of their lives, right? So if there is no accountability, if there is no, sort of an in-time solution, if there is no bringing those individuals that were giving tenders to their friends to book, then how do the people take back that power?
So we live in a parliamentary democracy, and as I pointed out at the beginning, this was a detailed parliamentary inquiry. So unfortunately, democracy moves slowly. Tyranny moves very fast. But I just want to underline how the people are suffering. Electricity supply is not the worst suffering here. Eskom got given 83 billion in 2015. It got given 59 billion rand this year. It's going to get at least 59 billion rand a year until it is fixed. All of that money could have gone to housing, hospitals, education, to the poor, etc. So what the people are doing is they are suffering. Now, unfortunately, in parliamentary democracies, the people themselves, in the end, have to call the political parties that are ruling us to account. If they don't, they will suffer. Then nobody's coming to rescue them. So this is one of the things. We are a young democracy, and I hope that we stay a democracy. So in the end, it's going to be the people that have to join the dots, as Pravin Gordhan says, between who is responsible, who can fix things, and who has to be held to account.
Hilton Trollip, thanks a lot for joining us.
I'm sorry to say, but there's no dramatic solution, but that is how it's going to have to be in the end. We can't have the same people sitting in Parliament that won't call our executive to account. We can't have the same executives. We can't have the same managers. We have to root out the ones that have caused this problem.
So, in other words, if you do not have Eskom power, then we've got the power of the vote. Hilton, we're going to leave it there for this morning. Hilton.